In this episode, I'm joined by Amanda Baker for a really honest, wide-ranging conversation about parenting, mental health, authenticity, and the weird ways social media can mess with how we see ourselves. Amanda shares her journey from working as a mental health therapist to bringing yoga and creativity into her work. We talk about ego, comparison, intuition, and learning to trust yourself a little more. We explore what fulfillment actually looks like, how to sit with uncertainty, and why the process matters just as much as the destination. We also get into poetry as a form of self-expression, the healing power of nature, anxiety, attachment, and the patterns we inherit from previous generations. It's a conversation about slowing down, getting curious, and remembering that you don't have to fit a mold to be doing life right. Above all, Amanda reminds us that we all have something unique to share, and that leaning into who you really are can be both healing and freeing. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying the podcast, please leave a rating and remember to follow. It really helps the show grow and feed that arsehole algorithm, who, by the way, is running my life at the moment. And if you really are enjoying the podcast and you'd like to support me further, then you can always buy me a coffee. The link will be in the description. No pressure though, but just buy me a coffee, eh? Nice one. Anyway, enough of that. This is TOMU, the open mic, unfiltered. Let's get fucking into it. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks for joining me. For people that don't know, Amanda's probably been a bit tight on time this morning. She's been watching her son perform a show at school. How was that?
Yeah, that was it was great. It was and it's called I don't know if it's the same where you are, but in the US, it's called American Education Week. And
Mm,
so during American Education Week, the parents are invited to go to their kids' classrooms for a couple hours and they get to watch the teacher teach their children and go through kind of a typical school day. So I was able to see him in reading, so English and language arts, got to watch him participate, go up to the board, read
mm.
some stories, answer questions. So yeah, it's a nice opportunity to be able to kind of see what his day is like. And when I was leaving, he was like, "Mom, can I come with you? I want to come to your work day."
Okay.
So that was cute to hear.
So he could have been on the show this morning, potentially, had you let him.
Right. That I
Yeah.
think that is really cool,
Mm.
actually.
But it must be nice to watch him grow and develop and to see the world again through such youthful eyes and to experience all that.
Yes. Yes, it's definitely a reminder of that childlike nature that I think is very easy for adults to come out of, maybe not even realizing it just as you get older and the pressures and the responsibilities of adult life. And so to witness and experience and also be a part of my son who, right, like is has like my DNA and
Hmm.
blood and see similarities, but also reminders for me to slow down and connect, engage more playfully, more presently, like that sense of innocence and curiosity reflected back for me. I feel like I'm learning so much from him.
Hmm. And right now, what are you up to?
I went, from being a full-time mental health therapist, previously worked at organizations, outpatient mental health clinics in in the state that I'm in, which is Maryland, and I've worked at a couple, and even before that, nonprofit work, residential treatment, and really in the past year and a half, because I've switched companies so many times, like I found myself this kind of revolving door of whether I'm getting like bored at the job or like burnt out at the job is probably more less boredom and more just like I'm kind of sick of this or this doesn't feel fulfilling in the way that
Hmm.
I could sense that something was missing, so to speak. And so in going out and working on my own, also a yoga instructor, so I combine yoga and mental health therapy, so the mind and the body. I started really spontaneously. It kind of came to me one day randomly in the winter of last year to create a group. And so I threw it out there to a lot of the clients that I was working with that I wanted to start this weekly or every other week, meet a few times a month. You could say it's a support group, you could say it's a therapy group, but really I just call it this. It's called alchemize. So alchemy, kind of
Mhm.
the process of turning lead to gold, or taking your dark and integrating it in with the light. And it's really, the foundation is on authenticity. And so
Mhm.
coming more into your authentic self and having in the moment experiences. So I might pick a topic, also we have gone out and done things. So we've gone to a cold plunge sauna. We had a psychic medium come. We had a paint, a art therapist come and facilitate. We've done a potluck, and each
Mhm.
person is kind of bringing their own ideas in. I incorporate in mindfulness, meditation, therapeutic interventions, my therapeutic yoga, poetry, because I also write poetry. And so there's been this group that's been so inspiring for them and for myself, that's also prompted me to share more of myself in other ways. So starting my own recordings and podcasts, being a guest on podcasts, feeling more courageous and confident in myself, that has led to improvements in my mental health and enhanced energy. Whereas even though it might look like on the outside I'm doing so much or so much more, I've
Mhm.
found that I've had more energy and enthusiasm for it.
Yeah, and I think it is that, isn't it? The more you do something you love, the more energy you seem to have for it, and the burnout doesn't maybe feel so much of a crisis when it does. You learn to read yourself a bit more, and I suppose that's probably
Yes.
comes in handy for you being authentic, therapeutical sort of practices you do. And but I really like the idea you have there, where instead of just being the traditional one-to-one sort of sit down talk through,
Mhm.
that you're incorporating, actually doing something whilst having the therapy, so it doesn't feel so intense, or maybe it doesn't feel like a therapy session. It feels more like a day out with your friends, but you're learning a lot about yourselves and other people, which I think is a really cool idea. Um, but it leads me on to,
Yes.
what is an authentic self then? Like, if you were to describe
Mm.
someone's, how would you find your authentic self? What is my authentic self?
And that's such a great question. And even if I can find myself thinking too hard on
Mm,
it, and I've gone a little bit back and forth, because I could say, like, anytime you're just in the moment, being you presently. And when I say being you, right, it's like, well, what is being you? Because being you
mm,
could also be the masks that you wear. Being you can be the influence of people outside of self or experiences that you've had. And is that authentic? I mean, we could
mm,
say, yeah, even if there's these kind of roles or personas that have developed in order to, like, function or feel a sense of fitting in the world. And I differentiate fitting in and belonging. I heard this from Brene Brown. She said that the opposite of belonging is fitting in.
mm,
And really, because anytime you are changing yourself to be a part of a group or a team, a society, a family, even anytime that you're adapting or changing yourself to fit in, then you're not really embodying a sense of belonging. Like, belonging says, I exist here, whether I'm a part of that group or not.
mm,
So I get to exist. I belong simply because I exist.
mhm,
And I think in many places there's a big fear of rejection, of being alone, of being disliked, being judged, ridiculed. And because of that, or even let's say that has happened, to many people, we are told maybe our beliefs are wrong or the way we are is not allowed. That when we get those messages, or this consequence could happen by showing up
mhm,
presently in the moment, maybe even more impulsively as you, that there might be this negative consequence. So people learn to kind of hide parts of self or traits of self. And
mhm,
so if we're hiding those traits, and maybe that happened at a young age, you're not even conscious of it, I would say then you're developing in an identity that is not true to you. And so when I think of authenticity, I'm not talking about the authentic you that is showing up from these learned kind of ways of being, the
Mhm.
masks that you wear. That authenticity to me is who you are below your identity. So we have labels, right? I'm a therapist, I'm a mom, I'm a friend, I'm a woman, I'm 37 years old. We need language to
Mhm.
relate. We need that also to understand and conceptualize. Yet, who am I if I strip all that away? Who are you when you take all that away? If age doesn't matter, if gender doesn't matter, if your job title doesn't matter, and what do you really feel and sense? Because it's hard. I don't think we can fully put that into words, but what do you feel when you're in the presence of somebody else? And when you're in that presence of you or someone else that feels maybe safe or calming, usually some sort of inspiration comes
Mhm.
and then you might act on it. And that kind of inspired action is what leads you into the next thing that's typically unknown. And we don't really
Yeah.
like that unknown.
No.
But I would say that's authentic.
Mhm.
That's being authentic is kind of this felt sense and maybe descriptive words that come from that. So I would say I'm more creative. I like that word over saying I'm a poet or I'm a therapist.
Yeah, yeah. So it allows for a bit more of a broader aspect of your character rather than a defining role of who you are.
Yes.
It's interesting though,
Yeah.
isn't it, how we seem to, as we get older, we do lose touch of our feelings in the sense of who we are. 'Cause I remember
Mhm.
one time someone asking me the question, this was when I was drinking. I was at the pub and
Yeah.
someone asked me like, so what does Cameron enjoy? Who's Cameron? And
Mm,
no
mhm.
one had ever just point blank asked that question to me out of sort of nowhere,
Wow.
and I was so stunned by it that silence. I was like, I don't know how to answer that question, and then that stuck with me for. It still sticks to me to this day that
Well, look at that.
yeah, I didn't know who I
Mhm.
was. I couldn't tell you who I am, and that to me that scared me because I was thinking that I'm that so far away from myself right now that when someone asks me who I am or what I like, I can't answer that question. So there's something that I need to find out again about myself. I really do need to sort of relearn who I am. And it was such a surreal, and no pun
Very
intended, but
surreal.
sobering
Mm.
moment. It was,
Oh,
yeah, it was chilling
wow.
actually. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I can tell how much that stuck with you, and that's what I mean when I say authenticity is its own therapeutic intervention, and that's not what I learned in school or training, but I've found that therapy, at least what I offer, is is the path of self-discovery. And
Hmm.
through that self-discovery, like rediscovering or remembering yourself, less about what model you're following or less about dissecting your symptoms or psychoanalysis of your past. I mean, that's all embedded in the work that I do. But yes, like you said, it's going back to discovering who you are and when you
Hmm.
connect with that again, even if there is some fear where you said like it was scary to recognize that maybe you aren't fully sure of who you
Yeah.
are. And that's okay too, because it can change.
Hmm. Yeah. I was just
Yeah.
thinking, I like to go to the pub. That was all I could sort of think of asking. I was like, that's not a good answer, Cameron. You need to go a bit deeper than
Mm,
that. But it's
it's deeper.
And what do you think it is?
Yes.
What do you think has caused such a disconnection between us, like within ourselves? Do you think it is technology, social media? Because I have this theory that because we've developed in such a rate that we're unable to keep up with the transition of from being, working factories, shifts, and 9 to 5s, and then all of a sudden,
Mm,
everything is at your fingertips, and it's so much.
mhm.
It's a bombardment of information or comparisons and maybe even jealousy to an extent where you see other people doing things and you think, why am I not doing that? And I think a lot of people get lost in themselves because you try and find yourself, but you're trying to create a life that you're seeing on Instagram or wherever rather than a life that suits or fulfills you, which I don't know if that's something that you've thought about or heard when you've been in your classes from people.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe that that's a part of it. And I believe that it was occurring even before that. Like
Mm,
social media just only heightened it even more and has contributed to just increase in that stress in your nervous system being activated because of how easily things are at your fingertips to then go into comparison.
mhm,
No, like comparison is such a way to also disconnect from yourself because then it becomes when we compare and if we feel inadequate from that comparison or jealousy and envy from that comparison, now we're I think our ego comes in, right? Like ego is this developed identity. And we need ego again to be like physically human and to function in this earthly realm because if we didn't have it, I think we would be this like soul kind of floating around and we'd have overstimulation uh where we really wouldn't be able to have some compartmentalization to structure life. And so we need some of that and we need some of like the free flowing ability to individualize yourself and also connect to your like fulfillment, your passion that has nothing to do with what anyone else is doing. But
mhm,
when we're in that state of comparison and the ego comes in and then competes, right? Like it's not they're doing this amazing thing and there's enough for me to do that too. And I'm happy for them. And I trust and believe that I can also create my own fulfilling life, whether that's
yeah,
similar to theirs or whether that's different, to hold that space to feel that happiness for someone else who has what you want or what you believe you think you want it but is that really it or is it really what you perceive of oh I just want to be happy too, I want to be fulfilled too.
mhm,
And that to me it's seeing things again, it's like broadening your view and really stepping into a place of trust and belief and courage and confidence and vulnerability to take a risk to engage in things that fulfill you. And you also have to know then what does fulfill me. And that might take some
mhm,
trial and error. It
yeah,
might
yeah,
be what that person is doing. It might not be.
mhm. When it comes to the ego as well, do you believe there is a good and a bad ego, isn't there? There's positive aspects of ego, and there's obviously the negative,
Hmm.
which you've just sort of explained there.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
what would you say the positives are for having the ego then to keep you sort of in line?
Yes. Yes. So I would say that the when I break it down, and this is just my understanding at this point in time, and it might change, and I'm totally open for other people's perspectives too. I appreciate when that occurs to consider other things and to contemplate and be curious. Though I believe that the ego, and if I say like your true essence, some people calls that your soul,
Mm,
uh, but like your authentic like self and your ego, I believe want the same thing. They want a sense of safety. They want fulfillment and satisfaction while they might go about it in different ways. And sometimes the ego can get caught up in that extreme of, I want satisfaction. And I believe that's going to come through power and money, greed and dominance to get there. Whereas the soul or your essence, your authentic self, your chi, whatever word, like so many different cultures have
yeah.
the different words for the same thing. So it's like it has to be, it has to exist, right? If it's
Mhm,
like all over the world, just with different words, um, your soul wants that satisfaction and fulfillment. It just knows that you don't need to go about it through those kind of, what we would say maybe more negative ways where you're pushing other people down and trying to compete or feel fulfilled or admired versus connected. I think they
Mhm.
both want that sense of connection with what you're engaging in and people and others and the environment.
Mhm.
They just have these two different ways of going about it. So if we can get them on the same page and the ego can trust that it can have exactly what it wants in this really like healthy, positive way, um, then I think that that's wholeness. And again, it will reduce mental health symptoms and will come about where you like feel better in your body. And it's also not being reactive or harmful
Yeah.
outside of self and to others.
Mhm. So it's basically when you're comparing yourself or what you're doing to metrics rather than connection, that's sort of where you blur your lines. If you're looking at growth in, say, money or followers or subscribers
Mm-hmm.
rather than the network or the connection you're building, that the network and connection you're building is more your essence, spirit, soul. Uh, what's the other word you said? Chai, chi, tea, chi.
Tea.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Chai's a tea. Um,
Guys, a tea.
yeah, rather than, when it's sort of the negative side of your ego where it's more about, yeah, the money or the followers or the subscribers, or more about, yeah, look at me rather than look at what I'm doing, I think is maybe how
Oh,
I perceived what you're saying or
yes.
interpreted it.
Yes. Yes. The look at me versus like see me for who I am and feel something from that. Right? So like the look at me can be like, look how great I am. Or there's can be people who are like bothered by someone's even um inauthentic or artificial success.
Hmm.
But right, it's like, look at my high numbers, or look at all these comments, or look at the money I'm making, look at the clothes I'm wearing, right? Like that
Yeah.
me attention versus the see me because I belong here. I'm worthy
Hmm.
of existing and I have or this person, whoever we're talking about, like has their own sense of self that naturally is magnetic because
Hmm.
it's real.
Yeah.
And when it's real, you might end up having a ton of followers, making a ton of money, being really successful. But what's at the heart of it and what's the energy behind it? Am I
Hmm.
coming from this place because I'm truly aligned and connected and passionate and believe that this is like, again, like that belonging? Like, this is for me what it's turned into over this past like year or so. It's such a different felt sense within myself. It's such a pool of like, this message needs to be heard.
Hmm.
Like not for any gain for me, but simply because it feels like it's such an important message that I'm a part of that I want others to hear and experience and step into for themselves.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. It's that's kind of where I started from. I don't even know how I
Mm.
came about having this or starting this. It was more,
Right?
yeah, I
Yes.
had my diagnosis for ADHD, which I got through a program for sobriety. So I wasn't going for the ADHD, but it came as the package.
Oh.
And
Uh,
I was going through quite a tough time with that. And I was like, I wish I could hear someone go through their experience with it just so I can feel like I'm not going crazy or that I'm not the only one that feels
mm,
this. So I just literally started talking into
yes.
my voice notes app on my phone and just putting it on to Spotify, and that's how it started. And yeah, so now I'm here, and like you said
Incredible.
there, with the message you said, it's wanting to give a message out to people. And I heard someone on another podcast, and they said anyone who's got a story or a message to tell should say it. They should speak it and then put it on Spotify
I
because
agree.
you don't know who you're going to help. So I thought, yeah, do you know what? I'm gonna do it. And then it just ended up, yeah, it rolled into this. But it's amazing the people you meet in this sort of community, or especially Fred's.
Same.
Fred's, by the way, just seems to be a place full of real, genuine love. I mean, there's some robots on there. I think like bots they call them, don't they? But I think
Sure.
majority
Mhm.
there's a lot of people on there that are very supportive compared to maybe other aspects of the internet that I've seen in a long time.
I agree, and for a while, I was resistance to threads
Yeah.
because for me, it was like, here's another thing. I don't need another
Mhm.
platform or social media app
Yeah.
or whatever. And a friend of mine said, Amanda, like maybe try threads. So I went on there and I did one post that again I felt like kind of described me, like where are my other like witchy spiritual like therapy type of, I said disruptors at the time
Yeah,
because
yeah.
at the time I very much felt like I was disrupting the way that mental health was being conducted.
Mhm.
And the amount of responses, and I didn't expect it at all, but it felt so, again, like you said, just like very loving and genuine, supportive that it's I've been very appreciative of social media over the course of my journey, which started more in this way, really being on social media like 5 years ago when I created my poetry page.
Mhm.
And it's because I felt alone or disconnected or that I had these aspects of self that wasn't really around me locally. Not many people who were into poetry or, I also had this like sad, depressed kind of melancholy side to me. And so to have others show themselves and others see me and connect with me in that way
Mhm.
has actually been I'm so grateful for that,
Yeah.
and it's put a different view of social media in the way that I'm using it or wanna support and inspire other people to use it.
Definitely, and I think it is that as well. It's social media, as we said before, it can have its negative effects on us, but it can also,
Mhm.
as its intention was, bring a lot of people together and be used for good. And I think that's what a lot of people are starting to do now. Maybe it's just because I'm doing it that I'm seeing more of it. I don't know, but I'm starting to
Could
see
be. Yeah,
there's yeah,
same.
I'm just starting to see there's a lot of people that seem to be going down that road of now rather than being
Mhm.
nasty on social media, people are being a lot more supportive of one another. But
Supportive.
I love the
Yes.
fact that you've because I've used the word disruptor as well. I like to sometimes upset the apple cart, as they say, and maybe question
Mhm.
things that don't normally get questioned if I don't think it makes sense to myself. So I really, yeah, I like the fact you said that you're disrupting mental, like the therapeutic side of it, how you do therapy, and how did that start with the group days out and the going out and doing the ice plunges, and rather than your typical in-house one-to-one?
I would say it probably goes back to, yeah, that time last year, there was, like, a snow day, so there was no schools, like, most people weren't working, there was a lot of snow on the ground, and in that open space that I had of time and I was playing with my son. So again, I think there's something about like that spontaneity playing with him. We went out in the snow and then when he was kind of taking a rest, I had this like inspired epiphany type of thing of I had a lot of recordings of of my therapeutic yoga of guided meditations that I've done, and so it's like, I want a place to put them. So on a snow day like this, people can access, some of these therapeutic modalities that are beyond just the talk therapy that I infuse. And when I was creating, and I looked online and everything just kind of aligned so easily. Like I Googled a platform that I could put these videos on and came upon one and then started uploading things and easily like titles came, descriptions came. What do I want to call this? Okay, I'm going to call it Alchemize. I don't know where that came from, but that became the group name
Yeah.
or the course community name. And then when I decided to put it out there, I was like, and I want this to also have an in-person component for the people who are local. We're gonna meet. And I had no clue what that looked like, what the first meeting was gonna be. And when I put it out there a couple of weeks later and people started signing up, I was like, okay, wow, like this is needed. Like
Mhm.
people want what I had found when I had asked people months later, what was it that drew you to this group? It wasn't the recorded videos and the online course. They said it literally was the idea of like community and also to spend more time with me. They were like to
Okay.
spend more time with Amanda. And I was
Yeah,
like, "What?" Like that that really surprised me. And I think for most people, like, we don't really know how other people actually see us. We tend to fall into the
Mm,
negative, that people see us in these negative ways. And there's probably so many people, or even if it's a few, that just see you in, they describe like Amanda, like for me, like as being like a lightful energy and a presence that feels welcoming, and a space that I was creating then in these groups to share story. So like you said,
mhm.
like when people want to hear others' story, when you hear someone else's experience that is similar to your own, like hearing someone else say something similar to your own softens your nervous system into a state of, I'm not alone, I'm understood. This person likely gets me, or they have something even to offer that's connecting, or informative. You can learn through their story.
Mhm.
That to me is so much more powerful and so much more valuable than, reading off something from a textbook that says use this coping strategy, for your
Yeah.
ADHD.
Mhm.
uh so yeah, those groups came about really, really spontaneously. And through the group, similar to you, I started recording myself talking, like putting on record, not with any, not on my phone, just like on, well, it was on my phone, but video. So not
Mhm.
just like a voice note. I would like, so I was looking at myself and I could see myself. And that became so therapeutic for me, like
Mm.
looking at my own eyes and then saying whatever came. And I would have experiences where I was like breaking down in tears. Or I would go back and watch myself, and you could see like this light bulb moment. My eyes lit up and I look up and I was like, oh my gosh, I just had this realization,
Yeah.
like about a concept or about myself.
Mhm.
And I started sharing them with the group. Like I was really doing it just for my own, like my own video diary type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna share this with the group. I'll put it on the online portion and they can watch it." And people started telling me, like, "Amanda, this needs to be out there." And so that's what started encouraging me to share it on Spotify and YouTube. And then from there, that led to each thing just led to something else.
Mm.
That led to inviting other people and also having guests on mine, and then also wanting to be a guest on
Yeah.
other people's platforms. I love these conversations.
No, it is incredible how you were saying there as well, where you started off with, the name alchemy coming to your head, and
Yes.
then you said, and then
Yes.
you realized, "Oh, I clicked here, and that was easy, and that's simple, and that's aligning, and everything was just falling into place." And that's when you start to
Mhm.
I f that's when you start to believe, okay, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing, because at the moment it seems to be going really well. And normally when
Yeah.
it's going really well, that's when a lot of people get a bit scared. I know I used to. I used to think this is going too well, so I'm gonna sabotage it before anyone else does, because
Mhm.
it always ends up bad anyway. But no, it's such a lovely
It's
feeling
common.
when, yeah, it's such a lovely feeling though when things do just roll and roll and roll. And like you said, you get complimented by someone and they say you need to do this or you should do that, and you think, okay, yeah, I'll do that, and then it just goes on to the next, and instead of a negative snowball, it's a positive snowball. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're doing so much good for yourself and for other people, and it all just came from just an intuition, I imagine, just the feeling of, this is what I want to
S
do, so I'm going to start and press record.
Yes.
Mm.
And I think not every, and that's a piece of it. I say that, your intuition brings you more into your authenticity, and then your authenticity also brings you more into your intuition. Like they are so interrelated. And not everyone, most of us will either have an intuitive hit and not follow it. Like I could have easily been like, "Oh yeah, it'd be cool to make this online course and have this group." No one's going to join it. I'm too scared. Like who wants to
Yeah.
like follow me or listen to me? And to go on what you're saying too about like I'm going to sabotage this, things are going too well, when's the other shoe going to drop? And
Mhm.
that's so common. And not to say that this whole journey has gone well. I've
Yeah.
had things that have, you could say, like failed or had like upsets, and I've had fear and anxiety. Another piece to this is I also have my poetry page that I ended up deleting and put into my whole own personal page. Now everything's on one page. My yoga, my poetry, me, family. It's like this is all me and that's the brand or
Yeah.
that's the intervention. So but at the time when I had this poetry page, I had this tagline at the end where one day I said, "You amaze me." And then that stuck. I just started signing off every caption with "You amaze me." And then people started saying it to me. So also around that same time as that group started, I created "You Amaze Me" sweatshirts. It's like it's winter time. I'm just gonna make these sweatshirts. I'm gonna give them away for free. It's gonna be like a part of this message. The message to see like the beauty and the amazement in others, in yourself, in everything. And, I did that for free and then they became donation based. Then they became like at a price. And I thought, my fill in the blank predictiveness was like, from doing all these things, I'm going to make a lot of money because I also need to support myself. I'm not
Mhm.
working like a typical salary job. And so I also need like income. So when I went into it and really took this risk, spending thousands of dollars on the sweatshirts and shirts, and also to pay for the online platform and the course, these groups I made super cheap. And for something in me was just like, money's gonna come. Like I was just kind of trusting.
Yeah, yeah.
And like months and months and months went by and I got into a lot of debt.
Mm.
And like, I mean, cool things happen. I won $500 randomly at some point,
Mhm.
but I started getting really nervous, like,
Yeah, I
"Oh,
bet.
no."
Yeah.
Like yeah, the money's not coming like I thought. And I was like, "I should
Anytime
never have
now.
done this." Right, like, I'm just
Yeah.
waiting from the
Yeah, yeah.
sky.
Yeah.
Um, but I started, like, regretting for a little bit of time. I was like, "Oh, I never should have done the shirts. Like,
Mm.
why did I make them free?" And then I had this experience where I had the shirts on this, like, influencer platform online. And one of the women who you put it on the platform and I had to pay, like to pay to put them on there, but then people buy the shirts and then they put it on their page.
Mhm.
And it was kind of gimmicky. Like a lot of people that were on there putting it on their page like didn't have a lot of an audience. So like no one really bought the shirts from that. So again, I was kind of feeling like, oh no, like I'm
Yeah.
making bad choices. But there was a woman on there who bought it and then she ended up looking at my page and then reaching out to me and said to me, "Amanda, you need to meet this other woman." And this woman runs these like business, mindfulness, spiritual summits and groups. You and her are so much alike. I really think you need to talk to her. And, to make a long story short, I talked with her. I attended her weekend event. I've met so many amazing people. It's propelled my connections and opportunities and income coming in new ways.
Mhm.
So then that was the realization of these shirts. It wasn't this direct exchange. It wasn't like I pay for these shirts and then eventually people will pay for the shirts and I'll get the money back. It was these shirts brought connection.
Yeah.
These shirts led me to new people. And that's abundance.
Mhm.
Like it's not just material wealth that is that I was chasing or that I thought I was chasing.
Mhm.
It's connection that keeps me in this state of trust of my intuition, of listening to myself and showing up more authentically, taking the time to really get to know myself and be myself and live that then yes, like the compensation comes in so I can still support myself, my family and survive and live here.
It's exactly that, and you think you said it really well there. It's your abundance there and your fulfillment wasn't necessarily the cash that you're receiving, but it was more so, as we spoke about before, it was the connection you were making with other people, like-minded people that was fulfilling you. Yeah, the cash was obviously nice and it helped support yourself and
Yeah.
continue what you're doing, but the fact that you were meeting so many people and broadening your network and
Yes.
yeah, just having connection with other people that are in the same position as you or thought like yourself.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, and I think that takes us back, to when you were talking about, who are you? What is authenticity? Or even like when you said, is it social media that has led to disconnection, or the comparison, the followers, like the can be on these things instantaneously. But if we even go further back to, other generations and periods of time where people were really just falling into roles. And when we're really just rigid around the role of, I work a 9 to 5 job, or I'm in a construction business and I go to work and then I come home, I see my kids, I make dinner, do nighttime routine, go to bed, wake up, do it all over again. And that's not everyone. Like there's people who are still living, outside of that. But if we think
Mm,
about it maybe from, the majority or the average, that when we get kind of caught up in that repetitiveness, or again in the role, and I think roles come with expectations and job
mm,
responsibilities, right? What does it mean to be the mom role, the father role, if you're a construction worker role? Well, you have to meet this criteria and kind of check off the boxes that we are led to believe that this is what a good parent or a good employee does.
mhm,
Those things to me, I believe, have become, or even for a long period of time, very performative. And we know the stereotypes. We know the stereotype of a 50s housewife.
yeah,
Why?
mhm,
Why is there such a stereotype around that?
mm,
And if you're falling into the stereotype of a 50s housewife, or now like a millennial, or what, all these categories that we have, to me that leads to disconnection.
mhm,
And that contributes to people who then self-medicate, use substances, fall into porn addiction,
mhm,
gambling, feeling on edge, distracted, your symptoms, because that's your body telling you something, is that you're not living genuinely or listening to yourself authentically, that are getting then treated with medication or talk therapy, or the next like big modality or self-help fad. And I'm
yeah,
not saying those things don't work, and please, by all means, like, we also need medication at times, though there's a big piece really to it that involves feeling attuned and connected to oneself, and then that with others.
mhm. No, absolutely. It's escapism in its purest form is
Mhm.
when you're not satisfied with who you are or what you're doing, and like you say, that you're not fulfilled or you don't feel fulfilled, and it's like I've always said, it's short-term joy, hiding long-term pain, and
Yep.
that's
Yes.
that's what a lot of people fall into that trap. And with the medication as well, like you said, there's definitely room for medication. And I think medication should be used as like appropriately. Um,
Same.
but
Yes.
I don't believe medication is the cure. I believe medication
Same.
get you to a point where you can get back to yourself. And then I think therapy and other forms of practicing like meditation or yoga or breath work, or even just getting out to nature, and trying to ground yourself, I think that's long-term improvement for yourself. Because if you're just medicating yourself, you're just kicking sort of the problem down the road a bit further. You're still not
Mhm.
addressing the real issue. That's why you're here. Do you know why you're on the medication? Why you've been like you have been for so long? It's finding the root cause, but sometimes you need medication to get you on the boat or on the wagon or whatever whatever interpretation you want to use.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree, right,
Mm.
especially for those who are maybe in, like, a deep, dark depression. Like, if the medication can get you out from that hole so that you can see some of the light and then start to engage, whether it is going, then to therapy or to a group or to a class or to a an activity, reading a book, listening to a podcast. I fully believe that all of those things are a part of a person's path. When someone's like, I've tried so many things and none of it's working, and then they feel like they've wasted time. I'm like, no, you just chose what you could for where you were in that moment of time. So I
Mhm.
use a spiral as like a symbol, because it's not like you go from A to B. It's like, I'm here and I'm going to get here. It's we repeat patterns. We fall, we take steps back and we kind of can move back up. Things will repeat themselves, but if each time you can get a little bit better, a little more evolved to then feel ready for the next thing, I'd very much encourage people to not push themselves for what they're not ready for.
Mm.
And that really comes from a deep trust. And I have a very different approach, I think, even when it comes to things like addiction. Of, if there might be using a substance and it's serving something. And if we just take it away without having something else just to cope or to kind of plug in that hole temporarily until one can really get to the root of maybe why they started using substances in the first place, um, that to me is more risky
Mm.
than saying, all right, like we're understanding what this is being used for, even if it's short term benefit. Let's explore this more. Let's engage in other things so that that part of you can trust that it's being cared for.
I think it's absolutely. I think that is it. Basically, it's finding trust within yourself again, trusting your
Mhm.
mind and your body. Because I think at some point people give up on trusting themselves because everything in their mind that's ever happened to them has been negative. So there's never
Yes.
any positive coming their way. So I think it's very
Mhm.
true what you said there as well about your path. It's never linear. It's never just straightforward. It's
Mhm.
always there's always something that's going to maybe knock you back or make you go in that spiral, but it's you'll always find yourself. It's like I've always said to people when I try and explain my mind how it works is that you might be crossing this lake or this pond, but there's all these stepping stones, but just because you've stepped on this stone, yeah, you can't go back and step on that stone, but there's so many other stones you can step on to get to where you want to
Yes.
get to. So just because
Yes, I love
that's
that.
gone, it doesn't mean that there's no way forward for you now. There's always an option. It might not be how you imagine it, but it can still happen. And I think that's
Uh,
where you need to sort of try and keep your mind at.
Yes, I
Mm,
love that, and I think that that hits right on, right? That broadening your view, right? It's
mm,
not, I just can go these stones. There's, oh my gosh, there's all these other stones. There's
yeah,
some stones like back there that maybe
yeah,
I want to go back
hmm,
to and check out what and we have the time. Like
mm,
so many feel the pressure, the rush, time's running out. Uh, but we really do have the time and we don't need to complete things by a certain timeline. When we are
mm,
willing to collapse that and kind of shatter the typical way of living or of following something and come back to like following whatever your heart's like journey is, even if it's a ton of zigzags.
yeah,
um, yeah, I think where the joy is, to enjoy the process. I know that can sound cliche, but really, it's why
yeah, yeah.
people say
Mm.
it. To enjoy the process along the way, not just the destination.
Yeah, it's definitely a cliche for a reason because it is true. You do hear it and you think, ah, but it is very true. It's not necessarily where you're going, or it's not the destination of it. Like you say, it's the journey you're going through, and it's going back to the time um, topic there you just brought
Mhm.
up. I think a lot
Yes.
of people, myself included, and I think a lot of people, they do for whatever reason, you feel like you are on a very short timeline to achieve or to fulfill yourself in whatever direction you're going in. And I feel that also has an effect on people's mental health because, like I said, it's the comparison thing again. You compare yourself to where someone else is, or why am I not there yet? And they've got that, and I'm still
Mhm.
here, and they're younger than me as well, and they're doing better than me. And
Mhm.
why when am I gonna get the fortune? And it's trying to remember that your race is your own, as they say, and it's there's
Yes.
no real finish line. It's just you against yourself. So to try and ignore that noise or that thoughts that you're having of where you are, because I've got a little mantra up there that says, I am in the right
Oh,
place at the right time doing the right thing. So it's kind of
yeah.
that's how I try and keep myself, because I can spiral. I can spiral. So I need to try
Mhm.
and find myself a way to bring myself back to here, the present, which I find difficult at times.
Of course. Yes. And I love that. I love that quote and that mantra, that reminder,
Mm,
because we do need that. We have tons of thoughts come in, and it's easy to fall into the spiral, and get kind of caught up in that, and that can happen, may happen. And right, also, like you said, you have this reminder where you might be able to like intervene to a point where you're like, oh, come back to the present. I'm
Hmm.
gonna like reset myself. And that's a practice.
Yeah.
That's a practice to just keep up with.
I think sometimes as well, because you have people in this life, and I have a very good friend of mine, and he's very happy with his job. His He goes to his job, he comes home, he's got his house, he's got his wife, he's got, like you say, he comes home, has
Mm.
his dinner, goes on his 2 holidays a year, and he's so content with that. And I suppose there's a lot of other people out there as well who are. I'm on the other side where I'm looking, I'm thinking, there's more to life than this, surely. Like this can't be it. Like there's so much more we could be doing than like this. You're at the same desk and the same window for the next 20, 30
Mhm.
years, and I'm happy with that. I was like, I can't understand it, but if you're happy with it, then
Great.
fine. But
Then
I
yeah,
can't.
like great for them.
Mm.
Hmm.
So it's just goes back to what you were saying before about people finding their own sort of way and what makes them fulfilled, and for him that's that. For me
Yes.
it's not that.
I and I resonate more with you. And yes, I know
Mm.
people that would resonate more with him. And there's space and room for all of it. And I know like my work or my message is not going to be for everyone. And I don't
Yeah.
expect it to be. Right. I'm not
Hmm.
not trying to pull people who are like doing and living in that guy's way to say like that's bad, that's
Yeah.
wrong, you should be doing it this way. Like no, like I'm happy for you,
Mm.
while I know that there's people who who do feel stuck, or like you said, like are yearning and longing because they know that there's more.
Mm.
um, and I lived that way. Like I started off with like go to school, get married, have a kid, have a family, have the like salary job. And I so it's like I also know like that was not for me, and to be able to kind of pivot and now live so much more like maybe spontaneously, or just to be like I have no clue what's next.
Yeah.
I don't know what my next like 5 steps are, or what I'm going to be doing a year from now, and for some
Hmm.
that's terrifying. And now for me it's like so mysterious and exciting that I it does then, by having that approach and that mindset, and like modeling that for others, and supporting others and feeling more confident and secure in the unknown, that allows me to actually be present more,
Hmm.
because the present moment now starts to feel safe without trying to control or fill in the blanks of the future.
Yeah, and that is it. It's the control. It's once you can relinquish that
Mhm.
control of the future or the outcome, then I think life or yourself in the present moment becomes a lot easier to manage. Um, but yeah, I envy my friend a little bit sometimes because I said I wish sometimes I could be a bit more like you and just be a bit more content with just the simpler things. But I'm always maybe trying to go a bit further ahead. But I was before I forget because I keep forgetting to ask you, so I'm going to ask you now.
Yes.
The
Go ahead.
poetry. How long have you been doing the poetry for?
So I started writing, or I could say singing poetry,
Mm.
when I was like 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was very young. I'm only child, grew up an only child, and my parents very much encouraged me to be involved in all these extracurricular activities. Like I tried dance and tennis and art lessons, piano, and I didn't really stick with much of it. And so when I got the keyboard though, because I was going to learn how to play piano, which I never did, never learned how to read music. But I used the keyboard for these like beats. It had pre-recorded like
Mm.
melodies that I
Yeah.
could play, and then I'd pretend I was on it.
Mhm.
And I would just start making up songs and lyrics that are like poetry or came out poetic, because I don't sing. I don't have a, a very good voice. I never really fostered that within myself. But what came from that, from like singing my made up lyrics, then led me to like the poetry and
Yeah.
writing poetry. So I continued that through my teen years. And then just before college, I stopped. I just stopped writing. Like there were no more journals. I didn't do it, throughout the years of university. And then when I went and did my yoga teacher training, after graduate school, just before COVID, they encouraged everybody to write daily. And so when I got back into that writing, it came out as poetry, and that's when it clicked and I
Okay.
remembered. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I used to write poetry all the time. Why did I ever stop?"
Yeah, yeah. I was good at this, but yeah, I can write poetry.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes. It's good at this. It comes naturally. This is, like, so enjoyable to do, and I feel
mm,
creative, and then I wanted to share it, and so, yep, again, it was just my yoga teacher training too was a very spontaneous. I didn't expect to teach. I wanted to learn more about it because I did yoga for my own, like, exercise and support, and so much came
yeah.
from choosing to do that. Mhm.
And your poetry, is it like a specific, is it a genre you call poetry? Is it sad? Is it
Mm.
upbeat? Is it
Oh.
a bit melancholy?
Yeah, it's sad. It's
Okay.
sad and melancholy. It's disruptive.
Mm,
Yeah, when I was younger, it was a place for my feelings. I
okay.
didn't get a lot of emotional attunement or attention. My parents were there. They met all my basic needs and ensured I was cared for and wanted me to be happy.
Mhm.
But that I could very much tell, like, sad Amanda isn't really allowed, or if I was sad, it was just going to be fixed. What's
Mm,
going to make you feel better? And it wasn't explored. And so it got held in, and thankfully I had that outlet to put it into my writing, the lyrics, the music, the poetry.
mhm. I think that's pretty beautiful though that you were able to find a place where
Mhm.
you could sort of soothe yourself to an extent, or
Mhm.
even process how you're feeling, but through poetry. I think that's at
Yes.
that young age. I think that's, yeah, it's really incredible actually, because I know it must be a generational thing. Because my parents and then other parents of friends and people I know as well, it was the same sort of thing. They loved you and they wanted you to be happy and they'd care for you, but if you were sad, don't be sad. Like, if you're going, you can't be sad when someone comes around. You need to be happy. You need to be on. You need to be
Mhm.
look like
Yep.
everything's fine. So yeah, very much can
Yes.
understand
Yes.
what you were talking about with that situation. Definitely. And your yoga, you said, was, did that just come as like an add-on to everything else you're doing, or did you do the yoga before the podcast?
I did, yes, I did it before. And so dance was something too as a kid. So again, a lot of the things I promote or speak to for others as takeaways is going back to what you naturally felt you enjoyed as a kid, or the interest that you would choose to do because you would choose to do it simply for fun, like whatever
Mm-hmm.
you would go to as a kid. And that's what poetry, my parents didn't promote that at all. And then dance was something they signed me up for when I was 3. I started ballet when I was 3. And out of all of the activities that they really wanted to put me in, I also did softball or baseball, and these things that I never really loved.
Mm-hmm.
Dance I stuck with. And so I did dance all the way, again, also up until college. And then yoga is kind of similar, I think, when I decided that I was going to, because in college I took yoga classes. So I didn't really keep up with instructional training for dance. But I was like, oh, well, they offer yoga classes at the gym. I'll
Mm-hmm.
go and do that as a part of my week. And and I hadn't done it before then. So around that age 18, I started taking the classes for my own, choice and benefit and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then found a studio after I graduated and got into working because I wanted to keep up with it because I really liked it. So around like age 30, I guess, so I did yoga. I just kept up with it like once or twice a week for like a little less than 15 years.
Okay.
And then I decided to do the yoga teacher training.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was at the same time as I was just being a mental health therapist full time. The yoga was on the side. I didn't expect to teach it. And then COVID hit right around the end of the training. And so
Mm-hmm.
then when I finished, a studio reached out to me and said, we would really like you to teach. We need teachers to teach virtually. So it wouldn't be in front of people. You just come to the studio and do it by camera. And I thought, okay, like I was always terrified of public speaking. So to
Yeah.
also teach these classes, show up on podcasts. I was the quiet one. I
Yeah.
didn't talk in school. I never raised my hand, never answered questions. And so to really have this like transformation, so to speak, has really been incredible. And, yoga was a part of that. It got me
Mm.
more comfortable to present myself to others, also brought back the writing. And then I started teaching these virtual classes and then started infusing in elements of therapy, like therapeutic language, therapeutic concepts into the yoga classes.
Mm.
And that's when people started coming up to me and like saying, Amanda, do you offer this one on one? And then that's
Okay.
where I created therapeutic yoga or yoga based individual
Mm.
therapy.
So you're quite a disruptor in every aspect of your roles or where you've been. You like to take a traditional sense and then, disrupt it and mold it into an Amanda's sort of vibe of it all.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I do that in a lot of in a lot of things.
Mm.
You're
Well, you're
right.
you're creative, so that probably just comes naturally to you, which is I think it's a great thing. And just quickly as well, the power of nature is
Yes.
something I wanted to speak to you about because as a therapist, obviously, are you do you believe in being grounded in that sort of grounding techniques and hugging trees? Because I've been reading a lot about it recently, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to decipher what's factual and what's not factual. So I thought maybe I'd ask you the question. You might be able to enlighten me a little bit more.
Sure, sure. And I can enlighten you from my, anecdotal experience or from
Mm,
my own experience or and things that I've listened to that talk about the benefits of nature because we as humans, we are also of nature. And so why wouldn't nature be something that brings you back to your like natural grounded state?
mm-hmm,
Because like again, if we're talking about authenticity, we're talking about like what's real versus what's been artificially manufactured even as an identity or what's been influenced by conditioning and man-made things or concepts. Like if you go outside and there's a tree, the tree through its own natural being provides shade.
mm-hmm,
Like that's what it provides shade, it provides oxygen. And so it's naturally serving things outside of self that it didn't have to get a certificate for, it didn't have to learn. And I think that's what we all have, like our own natural talents and traits and abilities that can be a way of making a living. Right? The tree just like holds its space and it lives.
mm,
And so, right, and we have that language of making a living, right? That means too, like earning the money or receiving the money so that you can survive in this culture and society. And so, to spend time with other things of nature because of what I view as like this magnetic effect, the sunlight, right? The warmth
mm-hmm,
that we need, the water that hydrates, everything that we need to live is already here and at our fingertips. We've
yeah,
just manufactured things to be more comfortable.
yeah,
And at times I think we get too comfortable and then we
mm,
don't know how to feel uncomfortable and we try to escape the
yeah,
uncomfortable, but our nature is like sometimes it gets really cold outside and we would adapt. If we allowed ourselves to stay there long enough,
mm-hmm,
our bodies would adapt. That's why people in Alaska, like they can withstand the cold. They
yeah,
can withstand the dark.
mm,
They have like 20 hours of darkness at a period of time.
yeah,
uh, we are so miraculous and we are our own medicine. And so to go outside and hug a tree, if that again feels resonant for you at first, might feel very uncomfortable. But if you do it enough, if you
yeah,
do it enough,
mm,
I truly believe that you will get benefit. Or if it's walking barefoot, breathing the fresh air, it that helps weed out the artificial energy, right? Like
mm-hmm,
we are also energy. So the negative energy that's been charged by the cell phone towers, by pollution, by all the time on technology. Again, we need these things, use them, but then how do you reset? Are
Yeah.
you drinking water? Are you going outside?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's something I've been looking into because I've, yeah, reading about, is it forest bathing? Forest bathing, they call it, just
Ah,
going out
okay.
and just laying under trees.
Yes.
There was a Japanese word, I can't remember it, but yeah, I've been recently looking at it, and
Cool.
it's funny what you said there about hugging the tree, yeah, because it's not something that you do every day, so it doesn't feel quite natural at the time, does it? Especially if you can't get your arms
Right.
around it, yeah, if it's a too big a tree.
Yes. I mean, and especially in our culture, right?
Mm.
It's not natural in our culture, but if you were born in another culture or practice, or if you were born and you hugged a tree every day because your parents can like encourage you to,
Mhm.
there wouldn't feel anything uncomfortable
No, if you're a
by
nation
it.
if you're a nation of tree huggers, then it wouldn't feel weird at all, would it? No, it'd just be something you
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of,
Yes.
what
Yes.
is it they do in the States? It's every morning they do the pledge to the allegiance or to the flag.
The Pledge of
Yeah,
Allegiance.
so
Yeah.
instead of that, send them out and hug a tree, that would be normal every morning before
Yes.
school. Yeah,
I
that's
see. Yeah. Yep.
maybe that's something you could encourage. You're the disruptor, so you can maybe get that next.
Well,
Speak to your kid's
yeah.
school.
Oh my gosh, right? Especially because being a disruptor and I was little, I did not like the Pledge of Allegiance. So it's
Yeah,
like, why do I need to stand up and say this?
yeah. I can sing it in poetry form. I don't mind doing that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
And did you ever, because you mentioned earlier that you were quite the quiet kid and didn't put your hand up and
Mhm.
were a bit maybe reserved or shy. Did you ever go through moments where you sort of struggled with your mental health, and did that lead you to therapy or?
Oh yes. Yes. Yeah, in high school, I was always very drawn to like sad music, melancholy music. I mean, it could also be like hard metal screaming music, but the lyrics were
Mhm.
typically on the sad side. And so, like for me, I thought, well, that's just me. I'm just like a kind of melancholy, like sad, reserved, quiet person. And it wasn't until a little later in high school that I also then started having like other symptoms where I was like sleeping all the time and just like feeling very, very fatigued. I was having headaches, and my mom, like, thankfully, thought that I was depressed, and they put me in therapy. And I did not really like that therapist. So I didn't have the best experience initially, and also I kind of felt forced into going. Whereas later, when I decided kind of more on my own to to go into therapy, I did find a lot of value in it, as well as my choice to study psychology, because I was very fascinated just by human behavior
Mhm.
and wanted and knew, like, at that teenage age, that I wanted to be a therapist. But I had found out in high school that I also had Lyme disease. So there was reason for those like medical symptoms that we thought was depression. And I think I had depression. Like, I believe I had both.
Mhm.
Um, I was also a very anxious child. So I struggled at a young age with separation anxiety. I didn't want to leave my parents. I cried like every day in first grade going to school, sleepovers. My parents tried to send me to sleepaway camp. They, like, wanted me to be able to feel secure,
Mhm.
separated, but I felt like, "Why do you wanna leave me? Like, why do you want me gone all the time?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I liked being home. I was a very much like a homebody.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I had, like, very, very significant, separation anxiety that I had no clue was anxiety. I just
Mm.
thought, "I wanna be home. I wanna be with my parents." I thought they were stomach aches, and then I was gonna vomit, that I was sick.
Mhm.
And so it really wasn't until I got into school that I realized, oh, like, this is anxiety or this is depression. I've probably had that not knowing. And so then getting myself into my own therapy was helpful.
Yeah.
While it was years of talk therapy and going in and kind of just venting for
Mm.
weeks, and I saw that same therapist actually for like 12 years.
Okay.
And yes, it really wasn't until I got into yoga and like opening up to other holistic forms that have led me to, even though I still get anxious and I still might have like bouts of depression, that I've felt like the best that I've ever
Mhm.
had.
It's interesting though how it seems to be holistic approaches or alternative. I think they're called something else now.
Mhm.
Contemporary therapy is it called? Where it's it's not the norm. That seems to be what a lot of
Yes.
people are leaning towards. And you just said there that when you sort of switch to that method of therapy, it seems to
Mhm.
help you a lot more. And
Yes.
the separation anxiety. Just going back, what causes that? Obviously, and it's being separated from your parents or where you want to be. But is there like an underlying? Is it a fear of abandonment that sort of
Mhm.
initially? Um, where does that come from? Because I've always tried to understand it. Because if you're feared, if it's fearful of being abandoned, then you must have felt abandoned by, say, if just for argument's sake, by your parents. So
Mhm.
why are you then anxious to being separated if you feel that they're not kind of giving you what you? It's to me it feels very complex. It's like a very
Yeah.
yes, it's a bit of a what do you call it? A word's gone out of my head.
That's okay.
It's like it's like a vicious
Like
circle.
like a vicious, yeah, like a
Yeah.
vicious circle, like this like multifaceted type of like, oh, I was abandoned and so now I'm fearful of being abandoned and
Mm. But I want to be with
yes.
the people that abandoned me.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, right. And I think that's just in our like biology and because those are the people that you were born from or who are taking care of you. And when you're a baby from like 0 to 7, you're such a sponge. Those are like the prime years that you are influenced, whether that is from like I view it's like it's attachment trauma, we could
Mhm.
say. And it's not, my parents had no intention of that. They did the best that they could with, their own upbringing and their own stuff. So I think there can be this like biological, like passing down of a nervous system that feels insecure
Mhm.
because of maybe what my parents experienced. If one or both of my parents experienced abandonment, then they may just like naturally genetically pass it down to me.
Mhm.
And they also may actually, through experience of whatever they're going through, unintentionally interact with me, or for parents interacting with a child or baby in a way that contributes to insecure attachment, or for me, like that separation anxiety. And I view the separation anxiety or that insecure attachment or more anxious attachment, or we could say, from the psychology words, disorganized. So it's this like inconsistency. Sometimes my parents were there, sometimes they were not.
Mhm.
So me as a young baby or child then came to learn, I don't know if my parents are going to be here when I need them. Sometimes they are available, sometimes they're not. And the baby wants consistency
Mhm.
and reliability and trust and emotional attunement, and for the parent to be connected even when they're there. My parent could come and pick me up out of the crib and hold me when I'm crying, give me the bottle, but are they present?
Yeah. Okay.
Are they connected with that warmth, that love? And
Mhm.
if the baby doesn't feel it, they're going to try to like fix it. They're going
Yeah.
to want to, like, if I spend more time with my parents, eventually I'll feel their presence, their availability, and their love.
And they'll see
And it's
me.
so unconscious.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that can lead right into obviously adulthood as well. And can it sometimes be subconscious in yourself? Like you said there, you didn't really know that it was that, and then you realized it was that. So sometimes
Yes.
if people are anxious, say up into adulthood, and they don't really know why they're anxious, could it be like an not diagnosed but an untreated attachment anxiety? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And that's why too, right? Just going back, like, okay, you can have this anxiety, not fully know where it's coming from or what, and then get diagnosed with like generalized anxiety disorder. because that's what's in the diagnostic manual.
Mhm.
And then you might be prescribed medication, and then you might be working through cognitive behavioral therapy or psychoanalytic therapy. But are you working with the nervous system that's been impacted by those attachment wounds? And are you also exploring your history? Again,
Mhm.
that self-discovery, just to know yourself of, okay, this was like likely what was occurring in my early years. And you might not be able to remember it per se, but you may have developed these beliefs and fears of being abandoned and rejected or not liked or loved. You might believe you're unlovable. And just bringing that up to awareness can be really powerful of like, oh, I know now I know this about myself, but now my nervous system and my beliefs need to come together to feel secure when, your partner's not physically with you or your partner's not assuring you, they're not responding to you, that you can still feel secure in self and start to alter those beliefs that I'm safe, I'm secure, I'm lovable, I'm cared for, not
Mhm.
depending on something or someone outside of self to be what assures you or fixes that. That takes a lot of like, again, self work, and also if you're in a relationship, having a partner that's willing to know you and understand you and also offer
Mhm.
support too.
And tolerate for a certain for to
And
an extent.
tolerate.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tolerance,
right,
yeah.
right. It's
Mm.
yeah, it's not to just it's not like you're just gonna get rid of it. Like
Yeah.
it's also adapting and having grace and compassion
Mm.
for
Patience as well, I
yourself.
think is a better word
And
maybe than tolerance.
patience. Thank
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, for
Patience.
sure. Yes, patience.
Mm.
And I think, and just in our society of so like being so fast paced, most parents, right, don't even have the patience for their kids. And that's
Mhm.
where some of this can even start.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
some don't even have the time for their kids, let alone the patience
Yeah.
because of the work hours,
Right.
the grind, as they say. So
Yep.
the kid ends up getting
Yep.
brought up by a nanny or an au pair or whatever
Yep.
word you want
Yep.
to put in there, depending on your working class, I suppose. But yeah, it's
Yes. Yes.
they could be brought up by someone else, and I think that's also a very strange situation to find ourselves in, that you're not necessarily passing down your beliefs or your morals or your teachings to your own kids anymore. So it could be someone else, and that to me,
Hmm.
I don't think is a natural way. I think your kids should be, not an embodiment of you, but they should be a part of you, and they should hold maybe the same sort of morals and values that you also hold.
Yeah, it's sad because a lot of parents need to work
Mm,
full-time jobs and they're not offered, we get in America, we get a 3-month maternity leave that's unpaid.
crazy.
So
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, in 3 months, no. I mean, it's like I said, it's 0 to 7. So, I mean, can we at least give a year to
Hmm.
be home with your kid to provide that sense of consistency, reliability, like patience and presence
Yeah.
for that for oneself and for the child.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
very lucky here in Copenhagen or Denmark. You get, I think, both parents get a year of leave
Wow.
paid for, yeah, when they have a kid. So
That's incredible.
they're
Yes.
very lucky in that sense. But I was just,
Yes.
before I forget again, because I can forget and then I can remember and then I
Okay.
forget again. But the
Yep.
you were talking when we were talking about the attachment and separation anxiety. We were talking about passing down that sort of anxiety or the wounds or the abandonment issues maybe from previous, and that bring me to ask the question. And so, is generational
Mhm.
trauma a thing? Then is that proven to be a thing, or is that just a theory?
I would say in even psychology, it's all theory.
Okay.
Psychology is all theory that has research that's backed up.
Hmm.
Um, and I heard a quote on someone else's podcast that really stuck with me, and I don't know who said it, but they said, "All theories are wrong, but a lot of theories are useful."
Yeah.
So I like
Okay.
that because we really can't. We don't have the like, who decides, right? Who decides what's right and wrong? I mean, even just to say 2 plus 2 is 4,
Hmm.
like, how proven is that from someone created math? I think. That's not my I don't wanna speak too much to that
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
like, have
We're
people
we're
be
we're not
like, "What are you saying,
mathematicians.
Amanda?"
Yeah.
We're not mathematicians.
Yeah.
I love having conversations that, like, again, push the buttons just to open up critical thinking and,
Mhm.
like, whoa. Um, so, yes, I would say, generational trauma, what's passed down is theory, and again, there might be, though, like, scientific research that backs it up, just like quantum entanglement has
Mhm.
been, more recently considered, scientifically proven. And so then are we saying it's proven, it's real, and other things are theory? Maybe there is something that's proven to say that generational trauma is real. And I find it fascinating. But my view of the theory is that our brain has neuroplasticity, so our brain can change, and so our nervous system as well. So you can go from an insecure nervous system to a more secure nervous system.
Mhm.
And I think this is where, like, timing and the precision of everything that's happening to create a child. I mean, it's like a literal miracle that a baby is born or that you were born as
Mhm.
you. Um, the the statistics of that are wild. And so the parents' nervous system and their brain at the time, if they were in a state of stress or if they again were just more struggling with like insecurities or mental health, and that can be what they're passing down to a child. So the
Mhm.
child can be born with the predisposition, and I say this with several things. A child can be born with a predisposition for addiction, but if they never pick up the alcohol, they never do the cocaine, they never become the addict.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the same can be for generational trauma or attachment issues. Like, the parent can pass it down, but if the parent then is working so hard to show up in I shouldn't say working so hard. Whenever we're trying,
Mm.
it's not genuine and authentic. So even myself, where I know all these things and I've found it with my own son of like, oh, I need to get him, I need to be there. But if I'm performing my presence of like he wants me, he needs me, so
It's
I'm
not
gonna show up
genuine.
here and like, all right, I'm here with you, it's not gonna have the same effect. He's still
Mhm.
gonna feel like mom's not really here right now. So it
Mm.
might actually be more effective for me to say, "Hey, buddy, I need to respond to this email or this phone call," then reset and then go to him versus like, "Oh, I gotta put this away and be here because I know
Mm.
he needs me."
Yeah, yeah.
It's a different energy.
Mhm. And then you end up going into that sort of situation with, like you say, not fully there because you've had to put down what you're doing, and that's probably frustrated
Mhm.
you in a way, so you're not truly
Yep.
present when your son needs you. So yeah, absolutely. It's a
Yes.
really interesting thing though. I find the when you talk about the neuroplasticity of the brain, because again, when I've been on started with my therapy journey and everything else, I've now become
Mhm.
quite intrigued by my. I've always been intrigued by my mind, how it works, because I've always thought that maybe I think a little bit differently to others at times. So, and I've always tried to understand people. I love trying to understand other minds as well. So I've always had
Me
that
too.
interest. But
Yes.
more recently now, because of everything that's happening, I'm starting to obviously learn a lot more and pick up on words. So when you said neuroplasticity, I was like, yeah, okay, I know a little bit about that, but not too much. But I just find it incredible how
Yes.
how
Look into it.
we can rewire our brains into from old patterns into new, or to create new experiences, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
And I remember watching a video, it's a small, I think it was a reel or some sort, but it was showing like it was like I don't know what the word is, but like some sort of brain neuron, or making a pathway in the brain to like create a string of happiness, which I thought was a really
Oh,
cool video
yes.
to see, like how, because it's living, it's living inside there. It's creating your
Yes.
environment inside of your mind, which I thought was just crazy because I'd never seen something like that
Oh,
before.
yeah, yeah, and that's where it's like, right, is this, like, proven? Is this real, or is it just theory or, like, woo-woo, like,
Hmm.
spiritual? But no, I think there is I really value both, like, the science and the mysticism, and
Hmm.
when they come together, it's, like, so, so powerful. So the more that we open up to, like you said, like just knowing, okay, there's something going on internally
Mm,
within the brain and what's firing along with what we like can't see or fully understand, but something's shifted
yeah,
because you feel it or you have that feedback or reinforcement.
yeah. Especially for someone that's visual, because if you see that happening, then every
Mhm.
time I have a happy moment now, I visualize that. I think, oh, there's a little guy in there who's just made a bridge in my brain for that happy moment I've just received. So it's sort of something I can put to it. It
Yes.
makes it easier to understand.
Yes.
But
Yes. I get it.
just before you go, Amanda, I do it with everyone.
Yeah.
Would you like to give a message to anyone that's listening if they're going through any hard
Mhm.
times or struggling with anything at the moment?
Sure, sure. And since you said the word message, I'll say, I have a lot of these taglines that have come up over the years. I already said the you amaze me of the seeing the amazement in yourself and others and everything. Uh, but one that has stuck that I promoted more recently is your mess is your message.
Okay.
And to really take the like it doesn't have to be orderly, you don't have to fully know what you're doing, but there's something when I say that, it's because it's like something that's so innate and unique to you, and when you put it out there, when you embrace it, no one can replicate you, and that's I think what draws people in, like, "Wow, like, how cool is this person?" Or,
Hmm.
"I wanna hear what they have to say or see what they're doing," and so even for you, Cameron, when you said you think differently, like, that can be your message. When you
Mm,
embrace, like, that your way of thinking in this world has value and has something to offer, and the more that you just tone into that, that's like your talent, your skill, your gift, and that can be channeled into a way of living.
yeah,
So yeah, your mess is your message.
that's awesome. Well, you amaze me, Amanda.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on. And again, just before I forget, because I did forget, Amanda,
Yes.
your poetry book is available, isn't it? If anybody wants to check out your poetry.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yep. So I'm Amanda Baker, and I actually have two poetry books. So I have one that's called Ask,
Hmm.
a collection of poetry, lyrics, and words. You can get that on Amazon. And then the other is a chat book. It's short, and it was published by a local in Maryland nonprofit, all women writers publishing organization. They chose mine when I submitted it to a contest several years ago, and that one's called "What is Another Word for Intimacy."
Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. I'll chat to you soon.
Yep. Take care, everyone.
To wrap this episode up, let's use this as a reminder that growth and healing are rarely linear. Finding fulfillment often means experimenting, trusting your intuition, and learning to sit with uncertainty. We talked about how ego, comparison, anxiety, and the patterns we inherit can shape us, and how connection, creativity, nature, and self-discovery can help us find our way back to ourselves. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following the show and leaving a rating or review. 5 stars would not hurt. It really helps the podcast grow and reach more people who could benefit from these conversations. You can also find us on our socials and continue the discussion there at TOMU Podcast. But more importantly, if you think this episode could help someone, most importantly, if you think this episode could help someone you know, please share it with them. You never know who might need to hear it. And most importantly, if you think this episode could help someone you know, or if it could just help anyone in general, please share it with them, because you never know who might need to hear it. And thanks to Amanda again for coming on the show. She was an incredible guest, and I hopefully look forward to catching her again in the future. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you next time. Legends. And remember, be good to yourself.